Hey guys, tonight we begin with a simple, almost comforting question. When was the last time you felt truly clean? That feeling of stepping out of a hot shower, steam clinging to the mirror, skin scrubbed and fresh. Now, imagine being told that very act, that simple pleasure, was a form of suicide. That to open your pores with warm water was to unlock 1,000 tiny doors for death to walk right in. Forget what you've seen in fairy tales and Renaissance fairs. The truth of the past is often much darker, much smellier, and far more paranoid than we can imagine. For centuries, a deep and abiding fear of water gripped an entire continent. And it started not with peasants, but with the most educated minds of the age. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations. You've woken up in 14th century Paris. The first thing you notice isn't the light, because there isn't much. A sliver of gray pushes through a grimy, oiled parchment window. No, the first thing you notice is the cold. A damp, insistent chill that has settled deep into your bones overnight, making your joints ache in a way that feels ancient. Your bed is a sack of straw, teeming with its own microscopic society, and your blanket is a coarse, heavy wool that seems to trap the dampness rather than ward it off. You sit up, and the second thing hits you: the smell. It's a complex, layered assault on the senses. There's the stale odor of unwashed bodies in your small, shared room, the faint, acrid tang of old smoke from the hearth, and wafting in from the street below, the rich, inescapable miasma of mud, animal dung, and human waste. This isn't a temporary inconvenience. This is the permanent background scent of your entire world. Your skin itches everywhere, a persistent, low-grade irritation that you've learned to mostly ignore. A fine layer of grime coats your body, a mixture of sweat, dirt, and the general filth of the city. You have a cough. 2, a wet, rattling thing that makes your chest feel tight. You feel heavy, sluggish, and profoundly unclean. And in a moment of desperate longing, a beautiful, dangerous idea forms in your mind. A bath. A hot bath. The thought alone feels like a miracle. A forgotten luxury. A baptism that could wash away not just the dirt, but the sickness you feel brewing inside you. So you pull on your clothes more stiff, itchy wool, and make your way through the narrow, twisting streets. They aren't paved, but cobbled in the best parts, and are otherwise a treacherous river of mud and refuse. You dodge a slop bucket being emptied from a window above, the contents splattering just behind your heels. The air is thick with the cries of merchants, the clatter of wooden cartwheels, and the distant, solemn tolling of a church bell, a constant reminder of both God and death. You're not going to a public bathhouse. Too expensive. And lately, people have been whispering about them. No. You're going to someone far more important, a physician, a man of science and learning, affiliated with the Great University of Paris, His word is scripture. His diagnosis, a prophecy. His study is a dark, cramped room, smelling of dried herbs, old parchment, and something vaguely metallic. Books with heavy leather covers are stacked in precarious piles. Strange glass vials and brass instruments gleam faintly in the candlelight. The man himself sits behind a heavy wooden desk, his face pale and gaunt. Framed by a severe black cap, he peers at you over steepled fingers, his eyes seeming to look right through your skin and at the troubled humors churning within. He is Master Arnaud, and he is one of the most respected medical minds in the city. You describe your ailments, the aches, the persistent cough, the feeling of being unwell, and then, hesitantly, you mention your desire for a bath, hoping he'll prescribe it as a cure. A deep silence fills the room. The physician's expression doesn't change, but a new intensity burns in his eyes. He leans forward, his voice low, solemn, and filled with a terrible certainty. "You wish to bathe?" he asks, as if you've just confessed a desire to leap from the top of Notre Dame. He explains it to you, not as a superstition, but as a clear and obvious scientific fact. Your body, he says, is a fortress. Your skin is its wall. But this wall is not solid. It is perforated with countless tiny gateways, pores. He calls them, in your natural state, these gateways are sealed shut by your body's own vital oils and a healthy, protective layer of grime. This, he assures you, is your armor, a shield crafted by nature itself to protect your fragile inner balance.
I wish I had better
Now,
news for you.
He continues,
The situation is quite serious.
his voice dropping further. Consider what happens when you submerge yourself in hot water. The heat, he explains, is a terrible enemy. It softens your skin, weakening the fortress wall. Worse, it coaxes open every single one of those tiny pores. Your entire body, from head to toe, becomes an open door, and what is waiting outside, desperate to get in. Miasma, the bad air, he describes it as a poisonous, invisible fog that rises from swamps, from graveyards, from the filth in the streets. It is the very breath of the plague. It carries pestilence, fever, and death. It swirls around you at all times,
Do not attempt to deny
seeking
it.
any weakness,
We know precisely
any
what
opening.
you have done.
To bathe in hot water. The physician concludes, his eyes locking with yours, is to invite this corruption into your very blood. You might as well open your veins and pour poison directly into your heart. The miasma will seep through your softened skin, travel through your blood, putrefy your humors, and you will be dead before the week is out. The prophecy is delivered. It is absolute. It is the unquestionable truth of the age. That comforting image you had of a steaming bath is gone, replaced by a vision of your own body turning into a sponge for disease, soaking up death from the air itself. You leave his study in a daze, the coins for his consultation feeling like a pittance for the life he has just saved. As you step back into the foul-smelling street, the world looks different. Every puddle, every gust of wind, every decaying piece of rubbish seems to radiate a palpable threat. You clutch your tunic tighter, suddenly grateful for the coarse fabric, for the layer of dirt on your skin. It doesn't feel like filth anymore. It feels like a shield. You are no longer just dirty. You are fortified. And the thought of water, of being cleaned, now fills you with a primal, chilling fear. Skin. It doesn't feel like filth anymore. It feels like a shield. You are no longer just dirty. You are fortified. And the thought of water, of being clean, now fills you with a primal, chilling fear. This fear is new. It's a fresh wound on the soul of your world. But the memory of the opposite, the love of water, is not so easily erased. It lingers, not in people's minds, but in stone. You see it on the edge of town, a hulking skeleton of a building that no one alive knows how to build anymore. You walk past it every day. Your town, like so many across this broken continent, is built in the shadow of giants. This structure is a monster of crumbling brick and stolen marble. Its arches yawn open to the sky like the mouths of long-dead beasts. Weeds as thick as your arm choke its foundations. Half the town has been built using stones pried from its walls. Your own neighbor's hovel has a suspiciously ornate piece of carved marble holding up one corner of his leaky roof. He tells you he found it. You know he spent a week working it loose with a crowbar. You venture inside sometimes when you're feeling brave, or just tired of the suffocating press of your own small world. The scale of it is sickening. You could fit your entire village inside one of its main halls. The ceilings, where they haven't collapsed, soar so high that pigeons nesting in the rafters look like flies. Who built this? The old men mutter stories. They say it was the work of giants, or demons, who were cast out when the true faith arrived. They say it was a palace for a forgotten king who made a pact with dark forces. You can almost believe it. You run your hand over a wall. Underneath centuries of grime, you feel the edges of thousands of tiny, colored stones, arranged in a picture. It's a man with a beard and a three-pronged spear, riding a chariot pulled by horses that have fish tails. A pagan idol. Surely, a symbol of the sinful world that God had to wash away with plagues and wars. Further in, you find the great pits. They are gaping wounds in the floor, now filled with stagnant green water, rotting animal carcasses, and the town's refuse. The stench is unbelievable. A thick, sweet miasma of decay that clings to the back of your throat. But you can see, around the edges, that they are lined with smooth, palestone, strange metal pipes, green with age, snake out of the walls and end in grotesque, gaping fish mouths. What devilry was this? What was this place for? The truth is, you are standing in a graveyard, not a graveyard of people, but of an idea, the idea of being clean. This was a Roman bathhouse, a thermae, and the ghost of what it was would be so alien to you, so impossibly luxurious, that you would assume it was a fable. This place, now a quarry and a garbage dump, was once the beating heart of a city. It was the Roman version of a town square, a community center, a sports club, and a business lunch, all rolled into one magnificent, steam-filled package. Imagine, for a moment, that you are not you. You are a Roman citizen, 1,000 years before your time. You finish your day's work and head not to a cold, dark hut, but here you pay a small coin, an amount almost anyone can afford, and you enter. The first room is loud and bustling. The Times Apoditerium asterisk. The changing room. Here, a senator might be disrobing next to a soldier. A merchant next to a craftsman. The rigid lines of society soften, just for a while, as everyone sheds their status with their toga. From there, you might step out into the Times Palestra asterisk, an open-air courtyard. The sun is warm on your skin. You see men wrestling, lifting heavy bronze weights, playing games with balls. You hear the slap of sandals on stone, the grunts of effort, the shouts of victory. It is a celebration of the body, a place to make it strong and vital, not a sinful vessel to be ignored and punished. When you've worked up a sweat, you move inside. To the Times Tepidarium asterisk, the warm room. The air is humid and pleasant. The light filters in from high windows. This is the social hub. People are reclining on marble benches, talking business, spreading gossip, debating philosophy. They are not huddled in fear of sickness. They are basking in communal health. The very air is a tonic. Then, you brace yourself for the Times Caldarium asterisk. The hot room. The air here is thick with steam. So then see. You can barely see. The heat is intense, seeping into your bones, loosening every tight muscle. You lower yourself into a pool of steaming hot water, a sensation so foreign to your medieval reality, it might as well be magic. Here, you don't just soak. You are scraped. Using a curved metal tool called a strigil, olive oil and dirt are literally scraped from your skin, leaving it tingling and alive. You are shedding the city, the grime, the day, layer by layer. Finally, the shock. The Times Frigidarium asterisk, a plunge into a pool of bracingly cold water. It jolts you awake, closes every pore, and leaves you feeling more alive than you have ever felt. You emerge, reborn. And it wasn't just the bathing. Around these great halls were libraries filled with scrolls, gardens for quiet contemplation, stalls selling food and wine, art that celebrated the human form. It was a palace dedicated to the simple, profound idea that a healthy body and a healthy mind were connected. Now, stand back in the ruin. You are in that same Times Frigidarium asterisk. The pool is a pit of black sludge. The mosaic of the sea god is missing half its face. The pipes that once gushed clean, cold water are choked with dirt and spiders. The ghosts here don't whisper of luxury and health. To you, they scream of decadence, of sin, of a pagan world so obsessed with the flesh that it built temples to it. You look at the filth you stand in, and then you look down at the protective layer of grime on your own skin. This ruin is a lesson. This is what happens when you trust the water. This is what happens when you open your pores to the world. It all falls apart. You turn your back on the crumbling giant and head home, sure in your conviction that the giants got what they deserved. This is what happens when you open your pores to the world. It all falls apart. You turn your back on the crumbling giant and head home, sure in your conviction that the giants got what they deserved.
But where can we go?
That conviction keeps you warm for a few weeks. It feels good to be right.
Are you sure?
You huddle by your small hearth, your skin sealed tight against the damp chill of the evening, confident in your body's natural defenses. The Romans, with their decadent steam and public pools, were inviting disaster. You, on the other hand, are a fortress. Then the rumors start. They arrive like a fog rolling in from the sea. First, as whispers at the market. Then as grim-faced warnings from sailors stumbling out of the taverns down by the docks. They speak of ghost ships drifting into port in Genoa. Their crews all dead. Their holds full of nothing but rats and a terrible, sweet smell. They talk of a sickness that moves faster than a man on horseback. A great mortality that turns vibrant towns into silent tombs in a matter of days. You dismiss it at first. Sailors always have their stories, each one more fanciful than the last. But the stories don't stop. They get closer. A merchant from Venice dies in his rooms at the inn, his skin turning a mottled, bruised black. A family on the edge of town is found, all of them gone, with strange, swollen lumps in their armpits and groins. And then, the bells begin to toll. Not the cheerful,
Get out of my way.
rhythmic
Let me
peals
through.
for Sunday service,
Move.
but a constant, frantic, overlapping clang that never seems to stop. Day or night, one for every soul departed. Soon, there are too many to count, and the sound becomes a single, droning hum of despair that hangs over the city like a shroud. The air itself changes. The familiar medieval cocktail of wood smoke, human waste, and unwashed bodies is suddenly sharpened by a new note. It's cloying, sickly sweet. The smell of decay on a massive scale. It's a smell that gets in your mouth, that coats the back of your throat. You start holding a rag soaked in vinegar over your nose.
We must look beyond
Like
the
everyone
immediate
else,
symptoms and understand
it does
the flow of
nothing.
energy within the body.
This is the
answer
Black
lies
Death,
within these scrolls.
and it is not a distant story anymore. It is in your street. It is in your neighbor's house. The panic is a physical thing, a frantic energy that sends people fleeing to the countryside, which only spreads the disease faster. Others lock themselves in their homes, praying to a God who seems to have turned his face away. And everyone,
You wallow in
absolutely
your sin,
everyone,
thinking God's
is
mercy
asking the same
endless.
question, why?
But I say to you,
The
judgment
physicians,
is nigh.
the learned
not
men who
hide
read
your
the
faults
ancient
from the
texts,
Almighty, for he
have
sees
theories.
the darkness within your
Of course
heart
they do.
and judges
They look to
accordingly.
the sky
I
and
say
blame
to
a
you,
foul
doubt is
conjunction
a
of the
sin.
planets.
Believe in the
They look
word,
to the
for
earth
these
and blame
scholars
noxious
twist the truth
vapors
with their endless
rising from
questions.
swamps. Or perhaps an earthquake that released poisoned air. The priests look to your soul and blame sin, a divine punishment for a world drowning in its own wickedness. But the theory that really takes hold, the one that feels most chillingly logical in this new, terrifying world, is the one about the air itself. They call it times miasma asterisk, a corrupt, poisoned atmosphere. They say the plague travels on the wind, an invisible pestilence that you breathe in. It seeps into you, a phantom poisoner you can't see, can't fight, can't even run from.
They don't understand.
And this is
Father.
where your smug conviction
have
about
faith.
not bathing suddenly
See me through
transforms
this.
from a
Let me
simple
survive,
belief into a
just as I
desperate
am.
article of faith. Because if the poison is in the air, how does it get into your body? The physician,
As Galen explains here,
his
the
face
disease
hidden
spreads
behind a
through the very
beaked
air
mask
we
stuffed
breathe.
with sweet-smelling
Therefore, we
herbs,
must fumigate the cities and
explains it
balance
to you
the
with
four
the
humors.
calm certainty of a man who is utterly wrong. The miasma, he says, is clever. It seeks entry. It will try your nose and mouth. Yes, but its favorite pathways are the pores of your skin. Your pores, he explains, are like tiny little gates into the castle of your body. When your skin is dry, cool, and coated in a healthy layer of your own natural oils and accumulated dirt, those gates are shut tight, barred. The miasma can swirl around you all at once, but it cannot get in. You are sealed. You are safe. But what happens when you introduce hot water? What happens when you step into a steaming bath? The heat and the moisture. He warns, gesturing with a gloved hand, are a traitorous invitation. They coax those little gates to swing wide open. Every pore on your body becomes an undefended doorway, an open invitation for the plague to rush in and consume you from the inside out. Suddenly, the public bathhouse on the corner isn't a place of simple, immoral pleasure anymore. It's a slaughterhouse, a death trap. The steam rising from its vents isn't just steam, it's a visible cloud of miasma, beckoning you to your doom. The very act of washing, of stripping away your body's protective grime, is no longer just vanity. It is suicide. You see the proof with your own eyes. Old Man Hemlock, the weaver who loved his weekly soak, who always smelled faintly of soap and herbs, is one of the first on your street to go. His family follows a few days later. You watch the death cart, piled high with limp bodies, stop at his door. The collectors don't even bother to cover their faces anymore. The work is endless. The connection in your mind becomes unbreakable, forged in pure terror. Water equals open pores. Open pores equal infection. Infection equals a swift, agonizing death. The very idea of being clean becomes horrifying. Water, the thing that gives life to the fields and quenches your thirst, has been poisoned by fear. It is now seen as the plague's accomplice. A warm bath is no longer a comforting luxury. It is a gamble with stakes so high that no sane person would dare to take it. The world has been turned upside down, and the only sensible thing to do is to let the dirt build up, let the grime become your armor, let your own filth be your salvation. His Raisin would dare to take it. The world has been turned upside down, and the only sensible thing to do is to let the dirt build up, let the grime become your armor, let your own filth be your salvation. And so you do. You embrace this new, grim science. It's not just a gut feeling or a panicked superstition whispered in the market square. Oh no, this is high medicine. Spoken with authority by university-trained physicians who smell faintly of cloves and old parchment. They have theories. They have charts. They have a complete, internally consistent, and utterly wrong explanation for everything. The guiding principle is simple. Your body is a fortress, a very delicate, pour une forteresse. Your skin, you are told, is not a solid wall but a landscape dotted with millions of tiny, invisibly gates your pores. When you are dry and cool, these gates remain barred and locked. But the moment you introduce heat and water, say, from a foolishly indulgent hot bath, every one of those gates swings wide open. And what's waiting outside the miasma? A foul, pestilent vapor, a toxic fog that rises from swamps, dung heaps, and the graves of the unshriven dead. This miasma, the doctors explain with a confident nod, is the very essence of disease. To open your pores in a bath is to send a formal, engraved invitation to the Black Death to come inside, make itself at home, and rearrange your internal organs. So, the logical conclusion is not just to avoid baths, but to reinforce your defenses. You need to seal the gates. And what better material than the one your own body produces? The sweat from your labor, the oils from your skin, the dust from the road, the soot from your fire. This isn't filth. It is a protective coating, a natural varnish. It's a carefully cultivated layer of biological spackle, plugging every last microscopic entryway. You look down at your hands. The lines in your palms are permanently etched with dirt. Your fingernails hold a dark crescent of what might be garden soil or yesterday's stew. You run a hand over your arm and feel the fine, gritty texture. A human sandpaper. To a modern mind, it's horrifying. To you, it's a relief.
Thank you, Doctor.
It's your
I shall
shield.
follow your instructions
This isn't a
precisely.
bug. It's a feature. Imagine you've saved up a few precious coins to see a physician about a cough that won't go away. He doesn't ask if you've been washing your hands. He asks if you've been foolish enough to wash your body. He might even scrape a bit of the grime from your forearm with a wooden tongue depressor. Holding it up to the light of the tallow candle, he squints, sniffs it, and nods in approval. Good, he mutters. A fine patina. You have a robust humoral seal. The malignant airs will find no purchase here. He then informs you that your cough is due to an excess of cold, wet phlegm, and prescribes a diet of roasted meats and dry wine to balance your humors. Taking your coins and sending you on your way, you leave feeling reassured. Your armor is holding. This protective layer becomes a part of you. It's a second skin you never shed. In the summer, it becomes a sticky, damp sheath that traps the heat, making every movement a trial. Flies treat you like a public monument. In the winter, the grime cracks and flakes in the cold. Dry air, creating tiny fissures in your armor that you worry about constantly. You learn to live with a permanent, low-level itch, a sensation you absent-mindedly scratch day and night. It's the itch of survival. The fleas and lice that make their home in your clothes and hair are just fellow travelers on this grimy pilgrimage of life. The smell, of course, is overwhelming by modern standards. But in your world, it's simply the smell of humanity. It's the baseline olfactory note of existence. It's a complex bouquet of stale sweat, wood smoke, unwashed wool, and whatever you've been working with that day, manure, fish, tanning chemicals. You don't smell your own odor any more than a fish smells the water. It's everyone's smell. It's the smell of a crowded church, a bustling market, a packed tavern, a person who smelled of nothing or worse, and of soap, would be an object of deep suspicion. What were they trying to wash away? What sickness were they trying to hide by scouring their natural defenses? This wasn't a theory for just the poor and desperate. It was the best medical advice of the age, adopted by everyone who could afford advice. The human body was seen as a perfectly balanced system of four humors: blood, flame, yellow bile, and black bile. Health was the result of these humors being in perfect equilibrium. Introducing an external element like water was seen as a dangerous disruption. It could dilute your blood, thin your bile, and leave you vulnerable to every chill and fever. So you sweat through your work in the fields. And as the salty moisture dries on your skin, you don't think, "I need a shower." You think, "My sealant is being reinforced." You trudge through the mud, and as it dries and cakes on your legs, you see it as an extra layer of insulation against the damp, dangerous ground. Every particle of dirt that clings to you is another tiny brick in the wall. You are becoming impregnable. You are a walking, breathing testament to the wisdom of your age. A masterpiece of applied filth, a warrior encased not in steel, but in your own stubborn, life-saving grime. And for the nobility, who couldn't possibly be seen caked in mud, a far more elegant solution was required to maintain this all-important seal. They had their own methods for staying safe, dry, and profoundly, fragrantly unwashed. And so, your noble morning begins. It doesn't start with the splash of water or the scent of soap. It starts with a cold, greasy feeling. You wake in your grand, four-poster bed, cocooned in heavy tapestries meant to keep out the drafts, but which have also trapped every breath, sweat, and scent from the night before. The air is thick, stale, and uniquely times yours. Asterisk. Your skin feels like a well-oiled piece of leather, a testament to the protective layer you've been cultivating. To disturb it with water would be madness, an open invitation to the agues and fevers that haunt the air outside your stone walls. No, for you, a member of the aristocracy, cleanliness is not about washing, it's about management. Your servant enters, bowing low. They aren't carrying a basin of steaming water. They are carrying a stack of immaculately white, folded linen cloths. This is the cornerstone of your morning ritual. This is the dry bath. The first cloth is for your face. It's a fine, soft cambric, and your servant begins to rub firmly. This isn't a gentle dab. It's an act of abrasion, of exfoliation through friction. The linen, being highly absorbent, lifts the topmost layer of sweat and grime from your skin. You watch as the pristine white cloth becomes a smear of grayish brown. The servant discards it and takes up a fresh one for your neck and hands. The only other parts of you consistently exposed to the world. They scrub at your knuckles and between your fingers, working the fabric into the creases. It's a strange sensation, not cleaning, but polishing. You're not removing the filth so much as buffing it to a dull, socially acceptable sheen. The quality of this linen is, in itself, a roaring declaration of your wealth. Peasants might have one rough, scratchy tunic to their name. You have piles of linen laundered with what little soap is available, bleached in the sun, and dedicated solely to the task of rubbing your body. A truly fresh, white shirt or chemise was the medieval equivalent of a luxury car. Wearing it was proof that you were so rich you could afford the enormous expense of laundry. This shirt, put on fresh each morning, was the true bath. Its clean, absorbent fibers would spend the day soaking up the body's output, and by evening, it would be stained and stiff. But for now, the feeling of crisp, new linen against your unwashed skin is the closest you will get to feeling clean. Once the surface has been polished, the next stage begins. Your servant brings a silver bowl, not of water, but of alcohol. It's likely a harsh wine or a distilled spirit, infused with rosemary or lavender. They dip another cloth into the liquid and begin to rub it onto your skin. The sudden, shocking cold makes you gasp. The alcohol stings, a sharp chemical bite that feels vaguely purifying. It cuts through some of the grease that the dry linen couldn't handle and leaves behind a faint, herbal scent. They didn't know the science.
I'll give you 3.
Of course, they had no concept of germs or antiseptics, but they knew this alcoholic rub made them feel fresher, and it temporarily masked the underlying human aroma. It was a chemical peel for the unwashed, a momentary illusion of purity before the day's grime began to accumulate once more. Now comes the most important part, the grand finale, the olfactory warfare. Your servant opens a small, ornate box. Inside are not delicate floral perfumes, as we might imagine. The scents of the medieval and Renaissance elite were heavy, animalistic, and designed to bludgeon the senses into submission. The goal wasn't to smell pleasant. It was to smell powerful. It was to create an aromatic cloud so thick that the stench of the street, the stench of your neighbor, and most importantly,
As you commanded, my lady.
your own stench
The finest jasmine
could
and
not
rose
penetrate it.
water.
You are
Exquisite.
presented with a
You may
pomade
be the
of
atomizer.
ambergris, a waxy substance from the digestive system of a sperm whale that washes ashore. It smells earthy, marine, and strangely sweet. Or perhaps you prefer civet, a paste scraped from the glands of a cat-like animal,
Get it while it's hot.
overwhelmingly fecal at first, but drying down into a
Butchered meat
potent,
right here.
musky floral, or maybe the classic musk, from the glands of a Siberian deer, the most prized and expensive scent of all. These weren't sprayed lightly, they were slathered. The scented paste is rubbed into your pulse points, your neck, your armpits, over the very areas the alcohol just cleaned. Your clothes are doused in it. A servant might even perfume the wig you are about to put on. You carry a pomander, a metal ball filled with solid perfume, to hold to your nose whenever you pass something particularly foul, which is, of course, everywhere. The resulting effect is complex. To a modern nose,
And the decanters
it would be
polished with
nauseating, a cloying, overpowering cocktail of old sweat, Expensivelinen, rubbing alcohol, and heavy animal secretions. It was a smell that screamed, I am so wealthy, I do not need to bathe, and I can afford to smell like the insides of a whale. It was the signature scent of power, an aromatic wall that separated the nobility from the unperfumed, water-washed masses they occasionally encountered and pitied. This entire performance, the rubbing, the stinging, the perfuming, was an elaborate and costly ritual designed to maintain a facade. It took far more time and resources than simply taking a bath. You had to have servants, access to vast quantities of linen, expensive distilled spirits, and perfumes sourced from the far corners of the known world. It was a daily battle against the body's natural state, fought not with water and soap, but with fabric, friction, and fragrance. And as you finally stand, dressed in your freshly scented finery, you are ready to face the world. You are not clean, not in any way we would understand it, but you are noble. And in this era, that meant you smelled exactly as you were supposed to, rich. You have successfully masked the truth of your body underneath the heavy silks and the cloying scent of rosewater. You are a landscape of sweat, oil, and the faint, ever-present dust of the world. But your physician has already warned you that this grime is your shield, your armor against the pestilence that rides on the evening mist. Now,
If he goes near
A
the
new
mistress
voice of
again, I
authority
leave.
joins the
You actually
chorus,
said that to him.
I did.
one that speaks
And
not
he
of your
just
mortal
stood there with
body,
his mouth open.
but of your
waters are
eternal soul.
particularly soothing today,
And it
aren't
tells you something even more
A
chilling.
welcome rescue
Cleanliness
from the
is not
Marseille.
next to godliness. It's next to damnation. Before the plague, you might have remembered the public bathhouse, the local stew. It was a place of steam and echoes, of raucous laughter and the sloshing of water in great wooden tubs. A place where the lines between class and station blurred in the hazy heat. You'd pay your coin and shed your filthy clothes, leaving the rigid, hierarchical world outside for a few precious hours. Here, a merchant might share a tub with a tradesman, their bare shoulders just inches apart. Minstrels played in the corner. Vendors sold hot pies and wine, and the air was thick with gossip, steam,
unto you, hypocrites.
and the smell
Your
of wet
piety is a
wood.
shroud for your
It was the
corruption,
closest your
and the
city came to a
fires of
community
judgment
center,
await you.
a social club, and a public spa all rolled into one. And that, precisely, was the problem.
You are guilty
The
of
church,
these sins.
ever
Do not
watchful
think
for
you
the
can
devil's
hide from the eyes
inroads
of the Lord.
into the hearts of men and women, looked at the bathhouse and saw not a place of hygiene, but a theater of sin. You are taught that the body is a treacherous thing, a vessel of flesh designed for temptation. It is weak,
You cannot hide your
It
sins
is
from the
corruptible,
Almighty.
and its
Confess your
desires
guilt
lead
now,
only to
or
ruin,
face the fires
to
of
celebrate it,
damnation.
to luxuriate in its sensations, is to dance with the devil. And what is a warm bath if not a celebration of the flesh? You can almost hear the priest's voice thundering from the pulpit, his words echoing off the cold stone of the cathedral. He paints a picture for you, a vision of the bathhouse, not as you remember it,
Your
but as he
souls
sees
are
it.
stained with
He describes the sin of
sin.
vanity,
The fires
of men and
damnation
women
await
preening,
those who defy his word.
admiring their own form, made slick and shiny with water. He speaks of the sin of sloth, of idling away precious hours in decadent warmth when you should be working or praying. And then he lowers his voice, his words crawling under your skin, as he describes the greatest sin of all, lust, in those steamy, co-ed tubs. With bodies barely concealed by the murky water, the church saw a direct pipeline to hell. They saw glances lingering too long. They saw hands brushing against each other accidentally beneath the surface. They saw the wine flowing too freely, loosening inhibitions and morals with every cup. The bathhouse, in the eyes of the clergy, was little more than a brothel with better plumbing. It was a place where decent folk were led astray, where marriages were threatened, and where souls were put in mortal peril, all for the fleeting pleasure of being clean. The new ideal becomes not the polished skin of a Roman senator, but the mortified flesh of a saint. You hear stories of holy men and women who took vows never to let water touch their skin, believing that the filth of their body was a testament to the purity of their spirit. Saint Agnes was said to have gone her entire life without a bath. A revered hermit might boast of the lice crawling on his body as his pearls of God. The stench of an unwashed ascetic was reframed as the odor of sanctity, a holy perfume that signaled a triumph over worldly temptation. So, when the priest condemns the local stew, his words carry the weight of both divine law and public health. He has the doctor's grim warnings on his side. He can now argue that to enter the bathhouse is to risk both your body and your soul. It's a terrifyingly effective 1-2 punch. First, the fear of the plague made you afraid of the water itself. Now, the church makes you afraid of what desiring that water says about your character. Slowly, the bathhouses begin to close. Under pressure from local bishops and the sermons that whip congregations into a moral panic, city councils revoke their licenses. The laughter and music that once spilled from their doors fall silent. The windows are boarded over. The great fires that heated the cauldrons are extinguished, and a cold stillness settles over the buildings. What was once a hub of social life becomes a derelict monument to a forgotten, more decadent time. The change happens inside you. Two, the guilt is insidious. Even if you had a private tub in your home, the simple act of filling it now feels indulgent, wrong. As you sit by the fire, feeling the grime on your neck and the itch under your woolens, a part of you yearns for the simple relief of hot water, but that desire is now tangled with shame. Is this vanity? Am I too attached to the comforts of this world? Is this simple desire for cleanliness a crack in my soul where sin can seep in? The fear of disease was a straightforward monster. You could see its work in the plague carts that rattled down the street. But this new fear is a ghost. It lives in your mind, whispering to you in the quiet moments. It judges your every impulse. Your spiritual health now depends on your ability to deny your physical self, and so you learn to live with the dirt. You learn to ignore the smell, to tolerate the itch. You convince yourself that this layer of filth is not just a shield against plague, but a testament to your piety. The path to heaven, it turns out, is unboasted, unwashed, and deeply uncomfortable. You convince yourself that this layer of filth is not just a shield against plague, but a testament to your piety. The path to heaven, it turns out, is unboasted, unwashed, and deeply uncomfortable, but that's a comfort for people who have the luxury of choice. That's a theological debate for a merchant in his drafty townhome or a lady-in-waiting in her cold castle. They can afford the fine linens to rub their skin, the perfumes to mask the truth. They can ponder the sin of bathing. For you, there is no debate. There is no choice. You are a peasant, and piety has nothing to do with it. Your constant companion is not God. It is mud. The sun hasn't risen yet, but a sliver of cold gray light filters through the wattle and daub walls of your hut, or rather, through the gaps in the wattle and daub. You don't wake up to an alarm. You wake up to the pigs snuffling at the dirt floor a few feet from your head. Your home is what we might today call open concept living. But the concept is simply that you, your family, and your most valuable livestock all share one smoky, dark, and damp room. The floor is packed earth, which is a polite way of saying it's a permanent mud puddle in the winter and a dusty pit in the summer. You swing your legs off the straw pallet that serves as your bed. The straw is damp and smells of mildew and something sourly animal. It crackles beneath you, a sound you've heard every morning of your life. Fleas, your other constant companions, it's begin their morning feast along your ankles. You don't even bother to scratch anymore. The itching is just a kind of background noise, like the wind or the distant lowing of a cow. There is no bathroom. There is no sink. The concept of plumbing is a fantasy on par with dragons and edible gold. Your morning routine is to stumble out the door, find a suitable patch of weeds, and relieve yourself. Then you splash a handful of frigid water on your face from the rain barrel outside. The water is brown and has leaves floating in it. This isn't for cleanliness. It's just to wake yourself up. To wash your hands before eating is to waste time you don't have. You wipe them on your tunic. which is already stiff with yesterday's sweat and grime. Your clothes are made of coarse, heavy wool. You own one set, maybe two. If you are prosperous, it's never truly clean. It's been washed in the river, maybe once a season, by beating it against a rock with a bit of lye. But the smell of wood smoke, sweat, and earth is woven into the very fibers. It's less a garment and more a wearable history of your labor. And that labor is the source of everything. You walk out to the fields, and your bare feet sink into the cold, wet earth. If you're lucky enough to own leather shoes, you save them for church or market day. For the daily grind, your own calloused soles are the tools for the job. You spend the next 12 hours bent over, tending to the Lord's crops. Your hands are plunged into the soil, digging, pulling, planting. The dirt gets under your fingernails, and it stays there. It grinds into the cracks in your skin, a permanent, dark tattoo of your station in life. When it rains, the entire world dissolves into a slurry of mud. It splatters your legs, your clothes, your face. It cakes in your hair. You don't run for cover. There is no cover. You just keep working. The water plastering your thin tunic to your skin. The mud becoming a heavy, cold second skin. You can feel it seep through the wool, gritty and chilling. This isn't the protective, theoretical layer of grime the doctors in Paris speak of. This is a cold, heavy blanket of reality. It doesn't feel like a shield against disease. It feels like the precursor to a cough that will one day settle deep in your chest and never leave. Lunch is a hunk of dark, gritty bread and maybe an onion, eaten right there in the field. You don't wash your hands first. The bread is already flavored with the earth it came from. You are, in the most literal sense, consuming your work. The idea of hygiene is a fantasy. Where would you even begin? To have a bath requires three things. You do not possess time, privacy, and fuel. Your day is bookended by darkness. There are no spare hours. Your one-room hut offers no privacy from your family, let alone the outside world. And most importantly, heating enough water for a bath would require a mountain of firewood that is desperately needed for cooking the thin pottage that will be your dinner, and for providing the meager warmth that keeps you from freezing in your sleep. A hot bath is a luxury on par with a king's feast. You've never felt hot water in your life, except for what's in your soup. So, you live in the dirt. It is your environment, your workplace, and a part of your body. You smell of the soil, of the rain, of the animals you live with, of the sweat of your own endless toil. And here's the strange part. It's normal. Everyone around you is in the same state. The smell of unwashed humanity, of manure and damp earth, is simply the smell of life. There is no social stigma because there is no alternative. To be clean would be to be an outsider, someone who clearly isn't working hard enough. Cleanliness, in your world, is a sign of profound laziness or impossible wealth. The filth is not a choice, not a sin, not a medical theory. It is a fact, as solid and unavoidable as the rising of the sun and the setting of the Lord's tithe. Your life is a constant negotiation with the earth. You are born from it. In a dirt-floored hut, you spend your life working in it, your hands and feet buried in it. And when you die, you will be placed back into it. Your unwashed body finally and permanently rejoining the mud that was your constant companion all along. In it. Your hands and feet buried in it. And when you die, you will be placed back into it. Your unwashed body, finally and permanently rejoining the mud that was your constant companion all along. Unless something truly momentous is about to happen. Something so profound, so life-altering, that it justifies risking a dance with the angel of death himself. An event so significant that you must, for once, defy the wisdom of your physicians and the terror of the plague. You are going to take a bath. Don't get too excited. This isn't a spa day. There are no cucumber slices for your eyes. No soothing ambient music. This is a ritual. Severe and purposeful. For most people, a full-body immersion in water will happen perhaps twice or 3 times in their entire lives. If they're lucky or unlucky, depending on how you see it, these are not acts of hygiene. They are acts of symbolic purification, transactions with a higher power, or with society itself. Let's say you are a young squire. You have spent years in service to a knight, mucking out his stables, polishing his armor until it gleams, and learning how to not die instantly on a battlefield. You have proven your worth. Tomorrow, you will be knighted. But tonight, you must be cleansed. You are led to a chamber, away from the noise of the great hall. In the center is a wooden tub, filled with steaming water. The heat alone is a shock to your system. A sensation you haven't felt since you were a small child. The water is laced with herbs, rosemary, and lavender, perhaps not for their pleasant scent, but because they are believed to have protective properties to ward off the very evils you are inviting into your pores. 2 older knights, men you respect and fear, are your attendants. They do not speak. Their faces are grim. This is not a celebration. It is a vigil. You are stripped of your filthy, sweat-stained tunic. For a moment, you stand there, caked in the grime of a dozen training yards and campaigns. Your skin, a roadmap of scars and insect bites. Then, you are lowered into the water. The heat is a jolt, almost painful. Every scrape and cut you've forgotten about suddenly sings with a sharp sting. You watch as the clear, herb-infused water slowly turns a murky, dismal gray. The knights use a rough cloth to scrub your skin, peeling away the protective armor of dirt that has been your second skin for years. They are scrubbing away the boy, the servant, the squire. They are preparing a clean slate for the man, the warrior, the vessel of chivalry. Once you are deemed physically clean, you are left alone in the chilling room, kneeling in the lukewarm, dirty water for hours. You are to pray, to contemplate the sacred vows you are about to take. You are purifying your soul. The physical bath was just the opening act for this far more important spiritual scouring. You are being washed for God. The fact that you might not smell like a goat for a day is merely an incidental and likely temporary side effect. Or perhaps you are not a squire. Perhaps you are a young woman. Your father has just completed a rather successful negotiation, the medieval equivalent of a corporate merger, in which you are the key asset. You are to be married. The transaction is complete. the dowry agreed upon. And so, you too must be prepared. Your bath is a different affair. It is overseen by your mother, your aunts, the older women of your household. It's less of a silent, grim vigil, and more of a tense, gossiping preparation. They pour jugs of heated water into the tub, adding milk and honey if your family is wealthy, or crushed flowers to mask the fact that the water was pulled from a questionable well. As you sit in the tub, they scrub you with a similar intensity, chattering about your duties as a wife, offering grim advice about childbirth, and reminding you not to displease your new husband. This bath is not for God, but for a man. It is to wash away your childhood, your family identity, your past self. You are being made new, presented as a pristine piece of property. The water sluicing off your body carries away your maidenhood. Symbolically, at least, you will emerge from this bath and be wrapped in the finest linen you have ever touched. Your hair will be combed for what feels like the first time, and you will be scented with whatever precious oils your family can afford. You are being prepared for a different kind of sacrament, one of duty and dynasty. For everyone else, the only other conceivable time you'd be fully doused is at your baptism. In earlier centuries, this was a full immersion, a dramatic public dunking. But as the fear of water grew, even this holy rite became safer. A gentle sprinkle on the forehead achieved the same spiritual result without opening up the entire body to a potential miasma invasion. Why risk eternal damnation in the next life and a fatal chill in this one? So you see, the bath is not about being clean. It is about being times cleansed asterisk. It's a symbolic reset button, pressed only in moments of extreme life transition, knighthood, marriage, entering a holy order. These were the only things worth the risk. You didn't bathe to feel fresh on a hot day. You didn't bathe after a hard day's work. You bathed because you were about to become someone else entirely. It was a shedding of skin, a ritualistic undoing of your former self. For a few fleeting hours, you might feel an unfamiliar lightness, the strange sensation of clean cloth on clean skin, but you know it won't last. Tomorrow, the knight will don heavy armor and sweat in the sun. The bride will enter a new home and begin a life of labor. The mud, the dust, and the grime are always waiting to reclaim you. The bath was never a solution. It was just a beautiful, fleeting, and terrifyingly dangerous illusion. And begin a life of labor. The mud, the dust, and the grime are always waiting to reclaim you. The bath was never a solution. It was just a beautiful, fleeting, and terrifyingly dangerous illusion. The illusion is gone now. It's morning. You open your eyes, not to the gentle glow of dawn through a clean window pane, but to a sliver of gray light forcing its way through a grimy, oiled parchment opening. The first sense that awakens isn't sight or even hearing. It's smell. It's always smell. The air in your small, shared room is thick. It's the familiar scent of stale sweat, damp wool, unwashed bodies, and the faint, sour tang of the straw mattress beneath you, which has seen more nights than you can count and is home to its own thriving ecosystem of tiny, biting companions. This is your personal atmosphere, the bubble of reality you carry with you. But it's nothing compared to what awaits outside. You hear a window shutter creak open from the floor above, followed by a casual shout of Times Garde's low asterisk, "Watch out for the water." A moment later, vite. Heavy splash hits the street below. You don't even flinch. This is the city's alarm clock. The morning ritual of emptying the chamber pots has begun. It's not just water. Of course, it's everything a human body produces in a night. Now joining the collective stew on the thoroughfare. You pull on your tunic, the fabric stiff with yesterday's sweat and today's grime, and you step outside. And the world hits you. It hits you not as a collection of sights or sounds, but as a physical wave of odor so dense you could almost chew on it. The air is not air. It is a wet, heavy quilt woven from 1,000 different threads of decay. Let's try, for a moment, to untangle them. The bass note, the foundation of this olfactory orchestra, is mud, but this isn't the clean, earthy mud of a country field. This is a primordial city mud. A slick, black paste composed of dirt, animal dung, human waste from the morning's volley of chamber pots, rotting straff, discarded fish heads, and the dregs of cheap ale tossed from tavern doors. It clings to the cobblestones, where they exist, and forms treacherous, ankle-deep pools in the alleyways. Your every step is a negotiation with filth. On top of this foundation, the sharper, more aggressive scents begin to play. As you walk, you pass the butcher's shop. The smell of iron and raw meat hangs in the air. A coppery tang of fresh blood mingling with the deeper, sweeter rot of discarded offal piled in a corner. Buzzing with a black cloud of flies, the butcher himself, his apron a Jackson Pollock of dried blood, gives you a nod. His personal aroma of sweat and slaughter is just another part of the street's perfume. You turn a corner, and the air changes. It becomes sharp, acrid, stinging the inside of your nose. You're near the tanneries. Here, animal hides are soaked in vats of truly foul concoctions. The most popular ingredient for softening leather is a potent mix of stale urine, which dutiful citizens collect in pots and sell to the tanner. The reek of ammonia is so powerful it makes your eyes water. It's the smell of preservation through putrefaction, a smell that clings to the very stones of the buildings. But the city is alive, and living things add their own notes to the miasma. Pigs. The city's unofficial and unpaid sanitation department roam freely, snorting and squealing as they devour the most egregious piles of garbage. Their own waste simply adds another layer to the street. Horses pull carts, their hooves churning the muck, their droppings left where they fall. Chickens peck at scraps underfoot. The entire city is a farmyard without a farmer, an open-air barn with no hay. And then there is the human smell. You press through the crowd in the market square. Hundreds of bodies, all clad in wool or linen that is rarely, if ever, washed. Each person is radiating their own unique brand of human scent, a complex bouquet of stale sweat, bad teeth, and whatever filth they've picked up in their daily labors. There is no personal space. You are shoulder to shoulder, breathing in your neighbor's exhalations, smelling the sour beer on one man's breath and the onions on another's. It's an intimacy you never asked for, a forced communion of shared grime. You might think the river would offer some relief, a breeze off the water, perhaps you would be tragically mistaken. The city's river is not a picturesque waterway, it's a flowing sewer. It is the final destination for everything. The tanners dump their urine vats into it. The dyers, using equally foul-smelling chemicals, pour their waste into its currents. The butchers toss in blood and entrails. The open drains that line the streets,
It's this dust, I
little
swear.
more than ditches for
Gets
filth,
everywhere and settles right
all
in your
lead here.
chest.
The river is sluggish, gray, and choked with the city's refuse. Its smell, a concentrated version of the entire city, with an added note of dead fish and stagnant water. How does anyone survive this? Well, you get used to it. Your nose, in an act of profound self-preservation, simply gives up. The constant, overwhelming stench becomes the new normal. The background noise your brain learns to filter out. For the wealthy, there is the pomander, a small metal ball filled with ambergris, musk, or dried flowers, held to the nose when passing a particularly vile section of the street. It's the medieval equivalent of putting one small air freshener in the middle of a city-sized garbage dump and hoping for the best. This is the sensory world you inhabit, not one of sight, but of smell. You navigate by it. You can tell you're near the fish market long before you see it. You know the tannery is upwind today. You recognize the unique scent of burning peat that means winter is coming. This overpowering, suffocating, all-encompassing smell is a historical artifact we can never truly recover. We can list the ingredients, but we can never taste the soup. It is the great, invisible wall that separates your clean, sanitized world from this one. A world where the air itself was a constant, unavoidable reminder of decay, disease, and the beautiful, filthy chaos of life. Invisible wall that separates your clean, sanitized world from this one. A world where the air itself was a constant, unavoidable reminder of decay, disease, and the beautiful, filthy chaos of life. But now, let your feet carry you away from the market square. Turn down a narrow lane, past the tanner's yard where the stench of curing hides makes your eyes water, and move towards the edge of the city. There, you see it, a high stone wall, impassive and gray. It seems to block out not just the sight of the city, but the sound, the very feeling of it. You find a heavy oak door and push it open. And the first thing you notice is the change in the air. The cacophony of the street fades, replaced by a profound, echoing quiet. The smell of rot and humanity is gone, replaced by something else entirely. It's the scent of damp stone, of beeswax from 1,000 candles, of old parchment and dry herbs, and underneath it all, something faint, clean, almost medicinal. It's the ghost of a smell you almost recognize from your own time. Soap. You've stepped into a monastery, and here, behind these walls, a quiet, almost fanatical rebellion against the filth of the age is underway. While the very church these men serve is preaching to the masses that water is a doorway for demons and that a layer of grime is God's own shield. Here, the rules are different. It's a spectacular bit of hypocrisy, one that would be funny if it weren't so deeply ingrained in the fabric of this world. God, it seems, preferred his most devoted servants to be less fragrant. This wasn't about luxury. It wasn't about comfort. It was about order. Monastic life was governed by a strict set of rules, the most famous being the Rule of Saint Benedict. This was a document that dictated every waking moment of a monk's life. From the hour of his first prayer before dawn to the cut of his wool habit, and tucked away in its detailed instructions for a life of piety and labor were shockingly specific guidelines for personal hygiene. Think of it as the medieval equivalent of a deeply obsessive office handbook, detailing not just your duties, but when and how you are allowed to use the communal sink. You follow the scent of damp stone and find your way to the cloister, the open courtyard at the heart of the monastery. Along one wall is a long stone trough, a Times lavatorium asterisk, a thin, steady trickle of water, a miracle of engineering in this age, flows from a simple spout into the basin. This is where the monks perform their ritual ablutions, before meals, before prayers, before they enter the church or handle the sacred, illuminated manuscripts. They come here. You watch as a line of them, silent in their coarse brown robes, approach the lavatorium. They dip their hands into the shockingly cold water. There is no idle chatter. This is a solemn duty. Their hands are chapped and raw from manual labor in the monastery's fields and gardens, but they wash them meticulously. They dry them on a long linen towel, a comune servitorium, hanging nearby. For a world that fears water, this is a radical act, performed multiple times a day. It's a ritual that separates them, marking their bodies as clean for God, distinct from the unwashed masses outside their gates. And it goes deeper than just their hands. Hidden away in another part of the monastery is the bathhouse. It is nothing like the grand Roman thermae of old. There are no mosaics, no heated floors, no spaces for gossip and commerce. It's a simple, functional, stone room, cold, damp, and echoing. A few large wooden tubs sit in the center, once a week, or perhaps once a fortnight, depending on the order's specific rules. It is bath day. The Times balneator asterisk. The monk in charge of the baths will spend the day hauling water and heating it over a fire. The monks file in, strip down in the chilled air, and perform their duty. This is not a spa day. The bath is often taken in silence. Another chore in a long list of chores. The water is shared. The soap, if they have it, is a harsh, lye-based concoction that smells of ash and animal fat. But it works. It cuts through the grime of the fields, the sweat of the scriptorium. They even have rules for shaving. The iconic monastic haircut, the Times tonsure asterisk, that bald spot on the crown of the head, required regular maintenance. So, with sharpened razors and bowls of hot water, they would shave each other's heads and faces, keeping themselves tidy, ordered, and uniform. You have to wonder, how did they manage this? Where did all this water come from when the river running through the city was a cesspool? The answer lies in the monks' greatest secret weapon, their intelligence. Many monastic orders, particularly the Cistercians, were brilliant hydraulic engineers. They would build their monasteries near clean water sources, then construct elaborate systems of canals, lead pipes, and aqueducts. They diverted rivers to power their mills, fill their fish ponds, and provide their kitchens with running water, and most importantly, they channeled it to their lavatorium and bathhouse, and then used another set of channels to flush their latrines. Their times re-redorter asterisk, carrying the waste far away from the monastery itself. They had created a closed, functioning, sanitary system in the middle of a world that was, for all intents and purposes, an open sewer. So while the King of France was dousing himself in perfume to hide a stench that could wilt flowers, and a merchant's wife believed her own sweat was a protective balm, a humble monk in a remote abbey was likely the cleanest man for 100 miles in any direction. He washed his hands, his face, his body. He wore clothes that were regularly laundered. He lived in a space with a functioning sanitation system. He was, by the standards of his day, a living, breathing miracle of hygiene. It was all done in the name of God. Physical purity was seen as a reflection of spiritual purity. To present a dirty body to the Lord was an insult. So, behind stone walls, shielded from the plague-addled logic of the outside world, they preserved a sliver of Roman reason, not for health or for comfort, but for holiness. Their clean, ordered world was a fortress, not just of faith, but of a forgotten fastidiousness, a secret that set them apart from everyone else. But outside those hallowed walls, for the bodies of nobles and peasants alike, a different kind of life was thriving, an ecosystem entirely dependent on the universal lack of washing. Everyone else, but outside those hallowed walls, for the bodies of nobles and peasants alike, a different kind of life was thriving, an ecosystem entirely dependent on the universal lack of washing. This ecosystem is you. Congratulations. Your body, unburdened by the tedious nuisance of regular bathing, has become a veritable paradise, a walking, talking nature preserve for a host of tiny, ambitious creatures. You are no longer just a person, you are a landlord, a territory, a mobile feast, and your tenants are always hungry. It begins as a familiar tickle at the nape of your neck, a faint movement in the greasy strands of your hair. You don't even think about it. Your hand comes up. You scratch absently, the same way you might swat at a fly. But the tickle returns, persistent and patient. This is the daily greeting from your most intimate companions. The head lice, they navigate the oils and grime of your scalp like seasoned explorers charting a new continent. Your hair, unwashed for months, provides the perfect anchor for their eggs. The tiny nits clinging to the shafts like grotesque, pearlescent fruit. Everyone has them. The lady of the manor, her hair elaborately braided and pinned, feels the same tickle you do. She may have a delicate comb carved from ivory, while you have a crude one made of wood or bone. But the task is the same. You sit in the weak afternoon light, methodically dragging the fine teeth through your hair. The little gray bodies come away in the tines. A grim and unsatisfying harvest. You crush them between your thumbnails with a faint, wet pop. It's a moment of victory. But you both know it's temporary. You are merely thinning the herd. Tomorrow, more will hatch. Grooming becomes a social ritual, a quiet admission of a shared misery. You see your neighbors sitting on their doorsteps, picking through their children's hair with a practiced, weary tenderness. It's a gesture as common as mending a shirt. But the lice on your head are just the vanguard. They're more ambitious cousins. The body lice. To have set up camp in the one place you can't easily reach the seams of your clothes. You wear the same woolen tunic day in, day out. It's a fortress for them. They live and breed in the thick folds of the fabric, venturing out onto the open plains of your skin only to feed. This isn't a tickle. This is a maddening, crawling itch that blossoms across your back, your chest, your armpits. You squirm on the hard wooden bench, trying to rub your back against the rough-hewn wall for a moment of relief. At night, you writhe in your straw-stuffed mattress, the itching reaching a fever pitch. In the dark, you can almost feel them, a phantom army marching across your skin. These aren't just an annoyance, they are tiny couriers of death, carrying typhus and trench fever in their guts. Every bite is a roll of the dice. And then there are the fleas. Fleas are the great equalizer of the medieval world. They are thoroughly unimpressed by titles or wealth. The king's velvet robes and your sweat-stained rags are equally appealing homes. They thrive in the straw on the floor, in the bedding, in the fur of the dogs that wander in and out of the great hall. You wake in the morning, not to the sun, but to the furious itch of new bites clustered around your ankles and waist. Little red welts, angry and inflamed. You can sometimes see them, tiny black specks that launch themselves into the air the moment you try to catch them. They are a constant, hopping, biting reminder that you are never alone and that the world is feasting upon you. A flea bite isn't just an itch, it's a faint echo of the terror of the Black Death. A tiny prick that carries the weight of a continent's worth of graves. All of this biting and scratching has consequences. Your skin, the so-called protective layer, is now a broken, weeping mess. The filth that was supposed to be your armor has betrayed you. Every scratch from your dirty fingernails opens a tiny door for infection. Sores and boils become your new geography. Painful red landmarks on your arms and legs. And then comes a special kind of horror. A creature that doesn't just live times on times you, but times in times you. The scabies mite. It burrows under the surface of your skin to lay its eggs, creating a network of tunnels that causes an itch so profound, so deep, it feels like it's coming from your very bones. You scratch until you bleed, but you can't reach it. The resulting rash is a scaly, crusted wasteland, particularly in the soft skin between your fingers and on your wrists. Your body is now a symphony of torment. There is the sharp prick of a flea, the crawling itch of a louse, and the deep, subcutaneous agony of the mite. Your skin is never calm. You are in a state of perpetual, low-grade misery. You see it on everyone around you. The twitching shoulders, the subtle scratching, the pockmarked skin. It is the universal human condition. To be alive is to be infested. Privacy hasn't been invented yet. But even if it had, you could never truly be by yourself. You are a crowd, a walking city of parasites whose entire world is bounded by the collar and hem of your tunic. This constant assault wears you down, a form of slow, biological erosion. It's one more misery to add to the list. Right after hunger, cold, and the very real possibility that your lord will send you off to die in a pointless war. And so you carry your passengers with you, into the fields, to the market, into your fitful sleep. An entire universe of life crawling and feeding in the dark. All of it blissfully unaware that its world is about to be turned upside down by a king who personified this reality perhaps better than anyone else in history. That king is Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, a man who became the living, breathing, and profoundly fragrant embodiment of an entire era's fear of water. He wasn't just a ruler, he was the gravitational center of European culture. And for nearly a century, that center smelled astonishingly bad. We picture his court at Versailles, a shimmering mirage of gold leaf, crystal chandeliers, and impossibly vast gardens. It is the absolute pinnacle of Western art and power, but a picture, of course, has no smell. If it did, your television would probably short-circuit. The air in the Hall of Mirrors was a physical presence,
Resist this madness.
a thick, soupy cocktail of sweat, waste, expensive food, and enough perfume to knock a horse unconscious.
I fear the
And at the
bleeding
heart
is
of this
insufficient.
glorious miasma was the king himself. The legend, which has clung to him for centuries like a damp linen shirt, is that he took only 3 baths in his entire 72-year life. While this is likely an exaggeration, it's an exaggeration that tells a deeper truth. For Louis, and for the aristocracy he commanded, a full-body immersion in water wasn't a pleasant luxury. It was a terrifying medical procedure,
Pardon me, my lord, I meant
undertaken
no
with the
offense.
same
The
grim
crowd is
reluctance
rather
you
thick
might
today.
reserve for
They're
amateur
all eager
battlefield
to catch
surgery.
his eye.
His doctors would have stood by, wringing their hands, convinced that with every splash, deadly vapors were rushing into his royal pores, seeking to extinguish the life of France itself. After one such prescribed bath, the king reportedly suffered such debilitating headaches that he swore off the practice for good. He had looked death in the face, and it was wet. So, how does the most powerful man in the world stay presentable? The answer is, he redefines the very meaning of the word. His morning routine, the famous Times lever asterisk, was a piece of public theater where the highest-ranking nobles vied for the honor of watching him get clean. Your first clue that this isn't a spa day is that there's no water involved. Instead, the ritual begins with a servant approaching the royal personage with a fine linen cloth, dampened not with water, but with scented alcohol or vinegar. This was the dry bath. The servant would meticulously rub down the king's face and hands. The belief was that the spirit-soaked cloth would cut through the grime and oil, and the rapid evaporation would slam the pores shut before any pesky plagues could sneak in. It was less about cleaning and more about a quick,
Indeed.
defensive polish,
I wonder if he noticed
the real
scent from
secret
the
to
kitchens
aristocratic
this morning.
hygiene, however, lay in the shirt. Louis XIV owned thousands of exquisite linen and cotton shirts, and he changed them constantly, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. In the medieval and early modern mind, the shirt wasn't just an undergarment, it was a tool. It was believed that the fine fabric acted like a sponge, wicking away the sweat, the oils, the impurities, the filth times from the body. To put on a fresh, brilliantly white shirt was to be clean. The actual skin underneath, that was just a foundation. The shirt was the pristine, whitewashed facade. If your linen was spotless, you were spotless. The logic is flawless, provided you don't think about it too hard. But this dry cleaning routine only addressed the tactile sense of grime. It did nothing for the smell. And oh, the smell. To combat this, Louis and his court turned to perfume, But this was not the light, airy floral spray you buy at the mall. This was chemical warfare. The scents of the 17th century were heavy, animalistic, and brutally powerful. The primary ingredients were things like civet, a glandular secretion from a cat-like creature, and ambergris, a waxy substance harvested from the digestive system of a sperm whale. These weren't meant to be pleasant additions. They were battering rams of scent, designed to violently conquer any other odor in the room,
Be careful. Someone might
especially
hear
the
you.
one emanating from your own body. You stand in a receiving line at Versailles. The room is hot, packed with hundreds of courtiers who all subscribe to the same hygiene philosophy. The air doesn't move. It hangs there, a shimmering curtain woven from unwashed armpits, powdered wigs crawling with lice, digestive and 1,000 different clashing musky perfumes. Then, the king enters, and his scent arrives before he does. It's an aura, a territorial marking. His personal blend of civet and orange blossom doesn't just mask his body odor, it merges with it, creating a unique, overpowering signature. This is the smell of absolute power. It is thick, sweet, and faintly nauseating. It is the price of admission to greatness. This olfactory nightmare extended to the palace itself. Versailles, for all its gilded glory, was a sanitary disaster. With over 10,000 nobles, servants, and soldiers living and working there, but a distinct lack of latrines, the palace's elegant hallways and manicured gardens became,
Fever will claim him
for all intents and purposes, a public toilet. Courtiers would simply find a secluded corner, duck behind a priceless tapestry, and relieve themselves. The diary of one courtier notes with weary resignation that the grand staircases were caked in urine and feces. The Palace of the Sun was, in reality, a gilded cesspit, a monument to the idea that as long as the surface gleamed, what lay beneath didn't matter. Louis himself suffered the inevitable consequences. He was plagued by debilitating headaches, likely from the constant chemical assault of his perfumes. His teeth, famously, were a disaster, leading to a gruesome extraction of his entire upper jaw without anesthetic, an ordeal that left him with a hole in his palate, through which liquids would squirt from his nose when he drank. His body was a walking ecosystem of parasites, and his elaborate wigs were cozy little apartment complexes for lice. Yet, he was the sun, the embodiment of civilization. He represents the absolute peak of aquaphobia, the culmination of 3 centuries of fear, superstition, and medical malpractice. He took the grim pronouncements of 14th century doctors and spun them into a performance of unimaginable luxury. He proved that you could build the most magnificent palace on earth, but you couldn't escape the fundamental, itchy, and deeply fragrant reality of the unwashed human body. But even as the Sun King's personal aroma saturated the very soul of Europe, the faintest of breezes was beginning to stir, carrying with it the whispers of a different, cleaner world just over the horizon. Even as the Sun King's personal aroma saturated the very soul of Europe, the faintest of breezes was beginning to stir, carrying with it the whispers of a different, cleaner world just over the horizon. This isn't a storm. Not yet. It's more like the change in air pressure before the rain. You feel it in your bones before you can name it. For centuries, the world has felt stuck,
How can you argue
A
that when
thick,
the evidence is right here in
cloying
front of
blanket
you?
of tradition
This
and
scroll
fear
proves my
draped over
point
everything.
entirely. You haven't even read
The doctor
footnotes.
tells you not to bathe. The priest tells you cleanliness is vanity. And your own nose tells you that everyone is in the same pungent, miserable boat. There's a strange comfort in that shared stench. It's the smell of survival. But now, as the 15th century bleeds into the 16th, something is changing.
The text
You
clearly
see it in
states
the new
right here.
paintings,
How can you deny the historical
where
record?
human
History
bodies
is
are
written by the
rendered
victors,
with an
and not
almost
just
shocking realism.
But his logic holds
You
firm.
hear it in the
Cling
arguments
together,
spilling out of the new
Paracelsus shows us the
universities.
truth. The dose makes
And you
the
can
poison,
hold it in
and
your
the body
hands,
holds its own apothecary.
in the
We
form
must
of a
look to
printed
nature.
pamphlet.
We must consider
It's
the
cheap
possibility
paper,
that these
still
humors are
smelling
merely
of ink and
reacting to
revolution.
external stimuli,
The world is
perhaps
being
too small
re-examined,
to see.
taken apart,
Let the dead teachings
and
of
put
the
back
ancients
together in a
turn
new
to
way.
ash. A
And
new
that
age
includes
of
the very
medicine
vessel you
begins
inhabit, your
today.
own unwashed body. Down in a grimy tavern, where the ale is thin and the air is thick, you might overhear a heated discussion. A traveling student, full of wine and new ideas, is talking about a man named Paracelsus. Is a physician, but not like the one who treats your village by bleeding you with leeches for a common cold. This Paracelsus is an arrogant, loud-mouthed brawler of a doctor who travels Europe, calling all the established physicians fools and murderers. He publicly burns their ancient textbooks, declaring that a doctor should learn from nature, not from thousand-year-old Greek manuscripts. And he says something truly heretical. He claims disease is not caused by an imbalance of your four humors or by poisonous miasmas floating in the air, waiting to slip into your open pores. Instead, he argues that sickness comes from outside the body. Tiny, specific agents, seeds of disease. He calls them that invade you and cause a specific illness. It sounds like madness. It sounds like witchcraft. The idea that your fever isn't a result of being too hot and moist, but from some invisible invader is terrifying. But it's also compelling. If the sickness comes from outside, then perhaps the thick layer of grime you've cultivated isn't a suit of armor at all. Perhaps it's just filth. The thought is so radical it feels dangerous, like speaking treason against your own skin. This is the Renaissance, the Great Rebirth. And while everyone is marveling at rediscovered Roman statues and new styles of architecture, a quieter, more profound rediscovery is happening. It's the rediscovery of the human body itself. Men like Leonardo da Vinci aren't just painting beautiful saints. They're secretly dissecting human corpses, a practice condemned by the church. In a cold, candlelit cellar, you can imagine him peeling back the layers of skin, muscle, and sinew, not with disgust, but with a draftsman's obsessive
Imagine a
curiosity.
world where the aether is
He draws the
secretly
intricate
relevant.
network of
It changes
veins,
everything about how we
the
view
perfect
cosmos.
machinery
If
of
you
the
worry
heart,
this gets out, it will mean
the elegant architecture of bone. His drawings show the body not as a magical vessel susceptible to demons and bad air, but as a complex, biological machine. And when you start to see the body as a machine, you begin to wonder about its maintenance. You wouldn't let a fine clock get clogged with dirt and grime, would you? The idea hasn't fully formed yet, but the connection is being drawn in the shadows. On y ici parchemin, in the minds of a few visionaries, on the battlefields of France, another man is putting these new ideas into practice. His name is Ambroise Paré, a barber surgeon, a trade considered little better than a butcher. For centuries, the standard treatment for a gunshot wound was to pour boiling oil into it. The logic was that gunpowder was a poison, and only fire could purify it. The reality was unimaginable agony, followed by a slow, septic death. But one day, Paré runs out of oil. In desperation, he creates a simple ointment of egg yolk, rose oil, and turpentine. He spends a sleepless night, certain his patients will be dead by morning. Instead, he finds them resting peacefully, their wounds calm and uninflamed, while the soldiers treated with boiling oil are feverish and dying in agony. He has stumbled upon a profound truth. The body has a remarkable ability to heal itself, if you just get out of its way. His discovery is a quiet revolution against the brutal traditions of medicine. It's a vote for gentleness, for working times with times the body instead of punishing it. And it carries a subtle implication if keeping a wound clean helps it heal. What might keeping the whole body clean do? These whispers are carried on the wind and on the page. The invention of the printing press means that Paracelsus's rants and Paré's surgical notes can be copied and distributed, slipping past the censors of the church and the old guard of medicine. For the first time, a radical idea doesn't have to die with its author. It can spread. It becomes a slow-acting antidote to centuries of fear. Of course, you don't run home and draw a bath. That would still be unthinkable. Your parish priest still preaches that the bathhouses of old were dens of sin that God himself struck down with plague. Your neighbors would look at you with suspicion, as if you were trying to wash away your very soul. The fear of water is now a deep cultural instinct, as ingrained as the fear of the dark. But the seed of doubt has been planted. You look at your own hands, caked with the dirt of your trade. You feel the constant, familiar itch of lice in your hair. You smell the sour sweat of your own body, a smell you've always accepted as the price of being alive. And for the first time, you wonder if it has to be this way. You hear stories from sailors who have traveled to the Ottoman Empire, tales of magnificent public baths where people gather not just to get clean, but to socialize and relax. They do this weekly, and somehow, their entire civilization has not been wiped out by disease. It's the 16th century equivalent of hearing a rumor that the world is round. It contradicts everything you know, everything you've been taught. It makes you question the very ground you stand on. Or, in this case, the very grime you stand in. The Great Unwashed era is still in full swing. The halls of power still reek, and the cities are still open sewers. But the intellectual foundation of that filth is beginning to crack. A few brave, eccentric, and often condemned thinkers are suggesting that perhaps, just perhaps, the cure for humanity's ills isn't a thicker layer of dirt, but the simple, terrifying, and revolutionary act of washing it away. And so these whispers begin, quiet at first, spoken in the hushed tones of university halls and the private studies of physicians who have seen one too many children die from a fever. These often condemned thinkers are suggesting that perhaps, just perhaps, the cure for humanity's ills isn't a thicker layer of dirt, but the simple, terrifying, and revolutionary act of washing it away. But with what water alone is the enemy, the carrier of miasma. To fight this great evil, you will need a weapon. And that weapon is not a shining sword or a new prayer. It is a humble, greasy, slightly smelly block of fat and ash. It is a bar of soap. Of course, soap isn't exactly new. It's been around in some form or another for centuries. A closely guarded secret of guilds who boil down vats of rendered animal tallow with caustic wood ash. You've seen it. Perhaps, or at least smelled its production. It's the acrid scent of burning lye mixed with the gut-churning odor of boiling fat. A smell that clings to the dyer's district and makes you walk a little faster. This crude soap is a tool, a harsh industrial cleaner for the textile trade. It's used to scour the grease from raw wool, to bleach linen until it's acceptably white for a lord's tunic. The idea of taking this harsh, skin-peeling block and rubbing it on your own body is laughable. That's like using a blacksmith's hammer to brush your teeth. It is a tool for things, not people, for the wealthy. This soap is what your laundress uses to battle the relentless grime on your cuffs and collars. For you, a common peasant, it's a fantasy. Your laundry day involves a rock,
It smells
a stream,
divine.
and maybe some stale urine for its ammonia content if you're feeling particularly ambitious. But as the Renaissance dawns and trade routes reopen like arteries to a dying limb, new things begin to trickle in. From the Levant, from Aleppo, and from Castile in Spain, merchants bring back a different kind of soap. You see it at a market stall. A small, pale-colored bar sitting on a velvet cloth. It doesn't smell of rancid lard. This soap is made with olive oil, a substance so precious you normally only see it on an altar. It might even be scented, ever so faintly, with lavender or rosemary. The merchant calls it Castile soap, or perhaps Marseille soap. The price he asks for this one small block could feed your family for a week. So, who buys it? A nobleman's wife. Perhaps she takes it home,
Heavens above.
wrapped carefully in linen.
What an
And what does she
outrage.
do with this
Observe how the
impossibly
muscle fibers
expensive
connect
item?
precisely
She
here,
doesn't wash
not
with
as
it.
Galen described,
Heavens,
but as the body truly
no.
is.
That would be like burning money for heat.
The outbreak
She
clearly
places it
follows
in
the
her
water
chest of
line through the
clothes,
East End. See
to
how
let
it
the
spreads
faint,
from the tenements. The
clean
desert.
scent permeate her garments. It is a status symbol. It sits there, a silent testament to her husband's wealth, an early form of air freshener battling valiantly against the ever-present medieval funk. To actually use it, to let it dissolve in water and run down the drain, would be the height of decadent
This waxy
madness.
barrier is the key.
It is an
It
object
protects
to be
the
owned,
pores.
Indeed.
not
a
consumed.
remarkable shield against
Yet.
infection, Doctor.
Those whispers of change are growing louder. The thinkers and physicians, the ones brave enough to question centuries of accepted wisdom, start to look at this luxury item differently. They don't have germ theory. They don't understand microbes or bacteria, but they are masters of observation. They notice that the bubonic plague seems to hit the crowded, filthy slums harder than the airy, spacious manors of the rich. They notice that diseases of the skin are rampant among those who never wash, while the nobility, with their dry baths of linen and alcohol, seem to suffer less. Their conclusion is, of course, completely wrong in its reasoning, but miraculously right in its outcome. They theorize that this new, oil-based soap doesn't open the pores to deadly miasmas like water does. Instead, they believe it creates a protective, waxy barrier. It seals the skin, creating a new, clean armor to replace the old, filthy one. And so, the great experiment begins. Imagine you are a wealthy merchant in Florence, a man who prides himself on being modern. You've read the pamphlets, you've heard the talk, you buy a small bar of this ludicrously expensive Marseille soap. You stand over a basin of lukewarm water, the bar feeling alien and slick in your hands. Every instinct, every lesson your mother and the local priest ever taught you is screaming that this is a form of suicide. You are about to invite death into your very body, but you lather your hands. For the first time in your life, you see foam, thick and white. It feels strange, almost alchemical.
Partial washing.
The scent is clean, orange and air-free. You rinse, you dry your hands on a clean linen towel, and you wait for the fever, the chills, the telltale buboes, and nothing happens. The next day, you do it again. A week later, a festering cut on your knuckle, which you were sure would lead to a lost finger, has begun to heal. It's a miracle, a small, personal, profoundly confusing miracle. This knowledge doesn't spread like wildfire. It moves like molasses in winter. It is a slow, cautious adoption by the elite. King Francis I of France declares the soap makers of Marseille the official purveyors to the royal court in the 16th century. Slowly, painstakingly, the craft of soap making establishes itself in Europe. The stinking vats of the soap boilers become a more common sight in cities, and the price begins a glacial descent from obscene to merely very expensive. It's still not for you. You are still caked in the mud of the fields,
That health can be
but the
in
world
our
of your masters is changing. The most radical idea of all begins to form: washing, not the entire body, that is still a yearly event at best, tied to religious ceremony, but washing the hands, and perhaps the face. It is a compromise, a negotiation with centuries of terror. You aren't submerging yourself in the devil's water. You are merely cleansing the parts of you that touch the outside world. Surgeons, whose profession was more akin to butchery, begin to tentatively wash their hands before an operation. The results are undeniable. Fewer patients die of post-surgical fevers. It's not understood, but it is observed. The humble bar of soap is becoming more than a laundry tool or a rich woman's potpourri. It is the physical manifestation of a profound philosophical shift. It represents the dawn of agency. For 1,000 years, disease was an act of God, a punishment for sin, a foul vapor on the wind that you could only endure. Your filth was your helpless fate. But this small, slippery block suggests something else. It suggests that you can take action, that your health is not entirely in the hands of God or fate, but also, quite literally, in your own hands. As you stand there, looking at your strangely pale, clean skin, smelling an aroma that is not sweat or dirt or smoke, you feel a terrifying and exhilarating sense of control. You have washed. The sky has not fallen. The world has not ended. In fact, it feels like something is just beginning. You feel a terrifying and exhilarating sense of control. You have washed. The sky has not fallen. The world has not ended. In fact, it feels like something is just beginning. And you are right. But what is beginning is not an age of rational cleanliness. It is the beginning of a new kind of madness. For centuries, the pendulum of human belief was stuck on one side, frozen in place by plague and piety. The prevailing wisdom was that filth was a fortress, a protective layer of grime that sealed you off from a hostile world. To bathe was to punch a hole in your own armor. to invite death in through a million tiny doorways in your skin. Now, with the slow return of soap and the whispers of a new science, that pendulum is not just swinging back, it is being released from a great height, ready to swing to the opposite, an equally extreme position. The legacy of the Great Unwashed is not a simple, happy story of humanity discovering the shower. It is the story of how a deep, primal fear of water morphed into a deep, primal fear of germs. You see, the enemy never really went away. It just got a new name and became much, much smaller. The vague, sinister miasma that you once feared in the foggy streets of medieval Paris was about to be replaced by an invisible army of microbes, swarming on every surface, every handshake, every breath you take. As the 18th and 19th centuries dawn, scientists like Louis Pasteur don't just suggest germs exist, they prove it. They hold up microscopes and show you the terrifying, squirming little monsters that live in the water, on your food, and under your fingernails. And for a society that has spent half a millennium convinced that the world is trying to kill it, this is not reassuring news. It is confirmation of their deepest paranoia. The fear was right all along. They just had the wrong villain. Suddenly, your layer of protective filth is no longer a shield. It is a breeding ground, a buffet for the enemy. The old fear of opening your pores to disease is replaced by the new horror that the disease is already on you, multiplying, waiting, and so the great war against dirt begins. It's not a campaign, it's a crusade, a holy war. Hospitals, once places you went to die, are scrubbed raw with carbolic acid by men like Joseph Lister. The smell of antiseptic replaces the smell of rot. Personal hygiene is no longer a matter of personal preference. It becomes a sign of moral character. To be dirty is to be ignorant. To be poor, to be a danger to yourself and the meticulously clean society being built around you. Your ancestors' singular bath before their wedding was a sacred ritual to purify the soul. Your new daily bath is a frantic ritual to sterilize the body. You construct a new kind of temple in your home, the bathroom. Think of it. The gleaming white porcelain, the sterile tile, the polished chrome that shows every single smudge. It's not designed for comfort. It's designed for disinfection. It's a laboratory for one. The medieval peasant had a bucket and, if they were lucky, a stream. You have an arsenal. Body wash for one part of you, shampoo for another, a special soap for your face, a scrub for your feet, lotions and creams to replace the natural oils you just violently stripped away with scalding hot water. You are not just getting clean. You are performing an exorcism of the day's microscopic demons. That bottle of hand sanitizer in your bag is the modern equivalent of a crucifix, a pocket-sized ward against the unseen evil of a doorknob or a shopping cart. The irony is so thick you could taste it. For 500 years, people lived in a symbiotic, if itchy, relationship with a universe of organisms on their skin. Their bodies were crawling ecosystems of fleas, lice, bacteria, and fungi. Now, you live in a state of perpetual warfare with your own biology. You use antibacterial soaps that kill the good bacteria along with the bad, leaving your skin dry, cracked, and defenseless. The medieval man suffered from scabies. You suffer from eczema and allergies. Your immune system bored and confused from a lifetime of sterile surfaces. We haven't escaped the fear that drove our ancestors to abandon their Roman baths. We've simply internalized it. The fear of death from the outside world is still there, nagging at the back of our minds. We just traded the superstition of miasma for the anxiety of contamination. King Louis XIV believed a thick layer of sweat and perfume would protect him from harm. You believe an invisible shield of disinfectant spray and constant washing will protect you from the same. Both are attempts to control an uncontrollable world. Both are born from the same dark place, the knowledge that our bodies are fragile, and that out there, in the air and on the surfaces, something is waiting to get in. The Great Unwashed were afraid of what water might let in. We are terrified of what might be left behind if we don't use it. And so, as you lie there tonight, think of this long, strange journey from the joyous, social steam of a Roman bathhouse to the cold, lonely dread of a medieval winter, from the belief that dirt was a shield to the terror that it is a poison. The human relationship with water has always been one of extremes, of love and fear, of salvation and damnation. When you next step into a hot shower and the steam fogs the mirror, you are not just washing away the day, you are washing away the ghosts of centuries. You are rinsing off the dust of the medieval field, the grime of the tannery, the perfumed sweat of a paranoid king. You are completing a ritual that your ancestors both yearned for and were terrified of in equal measure. The water is no longer a gateway for death. The miasma is gone. The threat of plague seeping through your skin is a distant, sleeping nightmare. Here, in the warm, clean water, you are safe. Let the day dissolve. Let the anxieties of an invisible world fade away. There are no demons in the steam. There is only the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breathing, and the simple, profound peace of being clean. Sweet dreams.